Okay, welcome to part 2. In this part of the course, we're going to talk about two things. One, how to best spend your time preparing for your interview, and two, what you need to do before your interview. All right, so discussing how to best spend your time in preparing for your interview, we're going to be talking a little more about how you can either go the extra mile, what are some extra things you can do that aren't specifically part of this course, that aren't necessary. These are more optional. Here's what you can do if you want to go that extra mile. So, of course, the very best way to prepare for your interview is to work through this resource that you're working through now. This will be your best bet at getting prepared for your interview. I'd strongly recommend that you pause and take notes as often as you feel inclined to. Additionally, I'd recommend that you pause the video and try to verbally answer the interview questions as they come up on the slides so that you can see where you are with respect to what a proper answer might be. In part 1, I talked a little bit about the briefs that we will be working through later on in this course. I'd very strongly recommend that you do those briefs. Even if you just do them super quickly with a pen and a notepad, the biggest thing is that you think through the different aspects of the brief and personalize it for you. The vast majority of the answers to the vast majority of interview questions will come directly from those briefs. So do those briefs, think about those briefs, write them out. I don't care how you write them out, just think through them so that you can be able to utilize that resource in your interview. Now, many people who are preparing for a speech or an interview have a very good sense of what they would like to say in the speech or in the interview. But when the time comes for the interview, they tend to fumble over their words and struggle through the presentation. When you are preparing for the different interview questions, it is extremely important that you verbalize what you are planning to say. I would strongly recommend that you go lock yourself in a room and practice audibly giving the answers to the interview questions. Also, if your wife or friend or husband is willing to ask you those questions and listen to your answers and critique those answers, that's great as well. It's always great to get tips from other people. Since we have heard ourselves talk ever since we were able to, we have a tendency not to notice some things about our way of speaking that could be improved upon. So again, if you can find someone to help you out, that would be awesome. Another thing that could be helpful to you is to look back over the resume that you submitted. It's never a bad idea. There is a good chance that you might get a question concerning something that you included in your resume. Thus, at the least, you should look it over again and be familiar with what you wrote in your resume. Furthermore, on our webpage, there are several resources that are totally free that I would recommend you go through to get an additional edge up on your interview. For one, there's a resource titled Ace the 10 Toughest Interview Questions. It's an ebook, and in this ebook resource, our team has compiled the list of the 10 toughest interview questions and provided you with a very detailed way of preparing for those questions. Secondly, we are going to cover how to improve your communication skills in this course. However, if you would like to get some help on improving your additional help on improving your communication skills, there's also an ebook, again, totally free, and it's entitled Speak Clearly and Persuasively. Now, this is available for free on our website. Again, it's entitled Speak Clearly and Persuasively. Thirdly, if you would like to listen to an interview, a mock interview, our team at ECSIQ has put together a mock interview that you can listen to for free, and it's on our website as well at www.ecustomerserviceinterviewquestions.com. Our YouTube channel is also another great resource. Our YouTube channel's title is ECSIQ Prep. It's a great resource to tap into if you have some extra time on your hands. We have lots of short videos on a variety of customer service skills and interview tips. Check that out. Fourthly, we have lots of great information on our blog. If you need a refresher about something we talked about in this course and you want to pull up a video, go ahead and look at our blog. It will most probably be there. And then finally, the team at ECSIQ is dedicated to providing you with all the resources that you need to help you ace your interview. And most of our resources are totally free, so please take advantage of what is out there to make the most out of your interview preparation process. Well, that pretty much covers some of the ways that you can go an extra mile in preparing for your interview. This course is comprehensive, so it will cover everything you need to know before your interview. and it will prepare you for that interview in every single way. So these are just the aforementioned ways are just ways in which you can take it to the next level. If you really, really, really want to be prepared, then those are some extra ways you can do that. Well, now let's go ahead and cover what you need to do before your interview. And in this portion, we're going to be talking more about these are things that are extremely important before you go in for your interview that you really should do. The first thing that you will want to do is go through your wardrobe and look in the mirror. Very simple, right? Go through your closet and make sure that you have the proper attire for your interview. We'll be covering what you should wear in the very next part 3. But just remember, go look in the mirror and decide whether or not it's a good time to invest in a haircut. Remember, looking professional will be very important. Also, take a good shower and be sure to use deodorant. I'm saying this because I wear a suit quite a bit, and you can start smelling pretty quickly in a suit. Secondly, ask your former manager for a letter of recommendation. Politely request that he include something about how you were able to assist customers, how well you represented the company, ask that he describes your personal character, and ask that he tells a little bit about how well you work with a team. So those 4 things. 1, how you were able to assist customers. 2, how you represented the company. 3, what your personal character is like. And 4, how well you work as a team. So those 4 things are very important. If you noticed remember back in part 1, we talked about the 4 different categories that you're going to get questions on. Well, those cover the 4 different categories more or less. So that's very important. That'll allow you to hand this to the interviewer during the process and say, all right, here's my letter of recommendation from my manager. And it will describe very nicely the 4 different categories and how you were able to benefit the company in those different areas. So having a letter of recommendation shows that you made an impression on your former manager and the workplace environment. Strongly recommend being able to get that. Hopefully you have a good relationship with your former manager. If not, this isn't a needed thing. You don't absolutely have it, but it's something that I greatly recommend having. The next thing that you will want to do is find a nice pen and a notepad. Having a pen and a notepad in the interview will make you look more engaged and professional throughout the interview process. It'll make you look like, when you're writing down what the interview is saying, if it's something about the company, if it's something important, it'll make you look like you really care about understanding the company, where the interviewer is coming from, and the information that she's giving to you. So bringing that into the interview and writing things down during the interview is important. And we'll talk more about writing things down and taking notes in our final tips, because there's a specific way you want to do that so it doesn't detract from the interview, but rather it adds to it. Also, you want to make sure to leave early from your home, not from the interview, so that you get to the interview on time. I like to tell people to leave with enough time to get there 10 minutes early, assuming that you will hit bad traffic. That means that if there is bad traffic, you will get there 10 minutes early, not leave to get there 10 minutes early in case there is traffic. No. What I mean is you need to be able to get there 10 minutes early regardless of traffic. If you happen to get there earlier than 15 minutes before your interview, wait in your car until the 15-minute mark. You don't want to show up too early, because then it just shows that you don't manage time very well. So go in between the 15-minute and the 10 mark to show that you're engaged and you're interested and excited about the interview, but don't get there earlier than 15 minutes. And getting to the interview late, it's pretty much, I'm sure you've heard this from everyone, it's one of the worst things you can do. Because that will be the very first impression that the interviewer makes of you, and it'll be a negative impression. It'll be an impression that the interviewer makes of you before he or she even sees you for the first time. So you want to avoid a negative impression like that. Another thing you can do, and that I'd strongly recommend you do before your interview, is drink water. Now, drinking water will help you from choking over your own words during the interview, or from getting a dry mouth and you'll start coughing while you're talking. You just want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So drink water throughout the day. Don't drink too much, because you want to be able to make it through the interview without having to go to the bathroom. So just drink your regular amount of water throughout the day, because sometimes when you're nervous, you stop thinking, you're not eating right and you're not drinking right. Make sure you eat and drink right the day of your interview. Also, focus on the task at hand, especially on the day of your interview. Here are some things that I'd recommend you do on the day of your interview. You want to go over your briefs an hour or two before your interview. Just read through them and remind yourself of their contents. The second thing you want to do is go over some potential interview questions during your car ride to the interview. Just remind yourself, especially of the ones you seem to struggle with when you were practicing, and verbally state the answers if you're riding in the car alone and you're able to. The third thing you can do, and you should do, is breathe deeply and normally. Breathing deeply and normally will help you stay calm, and it will help you speak more fluidly. Taking short breaths impairs your ability to sound passionate and confident. The fourth thing that I'd recommend you do is relax. Don't tense up right before your interview. It will make everything more difficult for you in the process. It will be harder to speak. It'll be harder to breathe. It'll be harder to look happy, harder to engage with the interviewer, etc. Mentally remind yourself that you are as prepared as you can be and that you will rock. Again, this resource will prepare you so that you will have no need to freak out before your interview. Another thing you need to do is stay positive. Having a positive attitude will definitely help you look more confident and more friendly. Don't look at the interview process as a test. It won't help you stay positive, and it won't help you keep from freaking out. So look at the interview process rather as a way to make yourself shine. It's an opportunity, not so much just a test where you're going to be judged. Yes, there is that element in it, but in every test, it's an opportunity. So look at the bright side. And then believe that you will do well. Don't worry about the interview right now, and don't be freaking out about it, because honestly, this course will get you there. From when you wake up until you get to the interview, start assuming a professional body posture. This is another thing that's very important, because when you get to the interview and you haven't been practicing it for a while, then you'll have to mentally remind yourself throughout the entire interview, and then you'll be correcting yourself and changing body postures a little too much. You could potentially make a jerky movement just when you realize, oh, wow, I'm not having the proper posture, and pull yourself into a proper posture, and it'll just be noticeable to the interviewer. So start assuming that proper body posture, which we'll talk about later in this course, earlier in the morning and then throughout the day until your interview and throughout your interview. The next thing is, if you have received information stating what the interviewer's name is, remind yourself of the name on the car ride to the interview so that you can introduce yourself and state the interviewer, greet the interviewer rather by name. And then finally, remind yourself of the 3 best customer service job experiences that you've had in the past. This will both encourage you and prepare you to use these examples in your interview, because many of the questions, and we'll cover this later in the course, will ask you to give an example of something. So remind yourself of those 3 examples on the car ride, and then practice saying them out loud if you can, and that'll help prepare you and just get that, right before your interview, that last edge up so that it's fresh on your mind and you know what you're doing. Let's briefly go back to something that I mentioned in part 1. I mentioned that the interviewer is looking for a whole package from you. Now, one of the best ways that you can fit that whole package is considering yourself that whole package before the interview. So just get into the interview mood the day of the interview. From the morning, from the time you wake up, even from the night before, into the interview itself. Consider yourself a great person for the interview. Consider yourself ready. Stay positive. Review what you were thinking. Don't overdo it. Don't freak out. Don't be frantic. Stay very calm and know that this course has prepared you. You're ready for the interview, and all you need to do is just stay in the right attitude. This concludes part 2.